And when I was a producer, I just started creating shows. Chopped was one of those shows.
So we have this whole concept of door to pour in 60 seconds.
Our goal from the jump has been to create, kind of a new travel essential.
It actually began with a disgruntled, feisty 10-year-old Chihuahua.
I'm Richard Gearhart.
And I'm Elizabeth Gearhart. You've just heard some delicious tidbits from our upcoming show.
Yeah, sprinkles on the parfait, as our producer would say.
So stay tuned.
I'm Richard Gearhart.
And I'm Elizabeth Gearhart.
Welcome to Passage to Profit, the show that's all about small businesses, entrepreneurs, and the intellectual property that makes them flourish. Our super special guest tonight is Dave Noll, a TV show creator and executive producer who created the TV show Chopped. And you'll be blown away by his topic tonight. Don't ever think big.
Think outside the box. Don't ever think outside the box. We also have three amazing presenters. I mean, I love these people's products, but I love these people too. And I tell people, if you want to see what we all look like, go to our YouTube channel because we always get the best looking people on this show.
Right.
But anyway,
she wants you to to look at her. I mean,
no, please do not. COVID has not been kind to me.
All right, then block out your screen. I don't care.
Our first presenter is Josh Goodman. If you have ever stood at the bar waiting for the bartender to notice you, he's got the solution.
So I've got that problem, but you usually get pretty quick service.
Well, I can get a little aggressive when I'm not getting my wine. But anyway,
yeah.
we'll let him tell you all about it. And then we have Arielle Crawford and Evan Boyd. And this is sci-fi stuff. This is so cool. I mean, I'm a fashionista. This is like sci-fi fashion.
Yeah, we have some special questions for them too.
Yes. And then our third presenter is Louis Torres. And if you like dogs, this is all about dogs, but I'm not going to tell you what it is. I'm going to let him explain it, but I think it's pretty cool.
So
really.
Looking forward to the surprise. But before we go there, it's time for IP in the news. And so what's on the board today?
Well, on the trademark front, okay. Can you do the Tarzan yell?
That's an odd question, but I'll give it a try. Was that his cousin? I don't know.
Pretty good. But Tarzan of the Apes was written by Edgar Rice Burroughs, I don't know, decades, maybe a century ago. And he actually, when he did that, he registered a trademark for the Tarzan yell. The mark is a yell consisting of a series of approximately 10 sounds. Right. Alternating between the chest and falsetto registers of the voice. That was very prescient because that yell has been used. Now, you said he trademarked it.
It was prescient?
Yeah.
What does that word mean?
He was looking forward.
Oh, I learned something today. That's
anyway,
why I come to this show. But please go on.
So you were saying that it was in a specific category though, right?
Yeah, only for toys. So the fact that Tarzan yelled does not mean that we're going to get sued.
So we've discussed on the show
Although
before.
we could get sued for other reasons.
I hope not. We've discussed on the show before how it's kind of amazing the range of things that you can get trademarks on. So sounds is definitely one of them.
And you can get trademarks on smells.
Yes.
And colors.
And colors.
Right.
And your service mark, your logo, all that stuff.
Right.
So now to IP in the news.
All right.
Chewy versus IPM. I love Chewy. I just got 2 Chewy boxes this morning, and I was asking our dog person, Louis, how he liked Chewy.
Louis likes Chewy.
So they're having a patent fight right now, Chewy and IBM. So Richard.
Yes.
It is common knowledge that a patent expires 20 years after its filing date.
Right.
In this case, the patent was filed in 1993. Shouldn't it have expired in 2013?
That is a trick question.
Why? Because you don't know?
No, it's because in 1993, a patent expired 17 years after the date the patent office issued the patent, as opposed to the current law where the patent expires 20 years after the filing date.
Okay, but it was filed in 93. When did it issue then?
It issued in 2006.
How did that happen?
Well, there's ways you can drag things out at the patent office. And so, in fact, the application is valid until 2003 instead of the 2016 that it normally-
2023.
Yeah, so the application is valid until 2023 and not 2013 as one would
So
expect.
if IBM has had this patent for all this time, why
Well,
is it
because
doing this now?
why is it doing it now? Well, back in 1993, people used to file what are called submarine patents. And so they would keep them secret at the patent office by dragging out the proceedings, and they would wait for a competitor to develop technology that would infringe the patent. Then, just like a submarine, the patent would surface, it would get granted, and they would fire a torpedo in the way of an infringement suit. So that's why they call them submarine patents. The legislation passed in 2001 has since made that a lot harder to do, but there are still a few tricks up the patent person's sleeve.
So you used to be able to much more easily keep a patent secret and then just zap somebody with it when they brought their product to market.
Yeah, which everybody agreed was unfair, but as long as it was legal, there were a lot of people who did it. So,
But now it's not so common.
not-
So now you're a lot safer.
yeah.
So how in the world do you know all this stuff?
Well, fortunes of a misspent youth. I used to roll with a lot of patent gangs, and midnight basketball got me out of it. So I'm here today to tell the tale.
If you have a patent issue or trademark or copyright, you don't need to know all that stuff. You just need to know him. So anyway,
That's great. So on to our special guest this evening. And without too much ado, I'd like to introduce a man who Emmy Magazine says is a TV mastermind, and he really is. Dave Knowles is a two-time Emmy Award winner, a two-time Gracie Award winner, and has won the coveted James Beard Award for our best television series, Chopped. And besides Chopped, Dave has also produced 50 other television shows. So besides not sleeping at night, Dave, how did you do all of this?
yeah, how did you get Chopped? My daughter and I used to watch every single episode of that.
I don't sleep at night, but that's because I have 3 kids. When I started out at MTV Networks, and I worked my way up from intern to production assistant, all the way up to producer. And when I was a producer, I just started creating shows. We were, at MTV Networks, working at MTV or VH1, producing a bunch of shows. And it was a great, amazing job interviewing famous people, flying around the world. It really was a fantastic job. At that point, I was 26, 27 years old. But for some crazy reason, I was the person who just kept saying, hey, what about this show? What about this show? What about this show? And my boss at the time, the legendary Bill Brand, was incredibly nice. And at one point pulled me aside and said, hey, what you're doing is fantastic, but just so you know, it's really not the way it's done. You're an internal producer. And what really is supposed to happen is we take ideas from the outside. And he was like, you might do very well if you left MTV Networks and were pitching shows from outside the network. And of course, at first you think, wait, is he firing? Is he trying to get rid of me? Is that what's happening?
Yeah.
But I went home and talked to my wife and did it and kind of took the leap and started pitching to places like MTV, VH1, Comedy Central, Nickelodeon. And that's basically what I've been doing now for, I guess, almost 20 years. Wow. And so Chopped was one of those shows. The woman I now create shows with. So since 2007, I've been creating and selling and producing shows with Cleve Keller, who I call the Mozart of unscripted television creation, because she just has this amazing mind for creating shows and this amazing energy. And so the two of us have been creating together since, the first show we sold was in 2003. And we've been creating together exclusively since 2007.
Wow.
So do you come up with all the ideas yourself, or do you take ideas that other people bring to you?
We never take ideas from other people, just simply because we create so much. We're doing it literally constantly. We were on the phone this morning, I think starting at about 8:30, and My guess is between say 8:30 and 11 o'clock, we had talked about 4 or 5 different shows, just new ideas, things that have never seen the light of day, just working them, reworking them, because it's not only about the show itself and the beats of the show, but it's also about how to sell that show. I mean, that's really almost the most important thing, right? Because we're walking into a buyer essentially asking for, at the very least, a development deal or a pilot. But what we're really asking for is 10 episodes, or in the case of one of our game shows or one of our syndicated shows, you're looking at a first season that might be 65 episodes, or it might be 170 episodes. So you're asking for something pretty substantial. And so you better have a great pitch. You better have an amazing hook, a great line, something that they can really grab onto and fall in love with as much as we are in love with it.
Wow. So how do you decide which ideas are the ones that you'll pitch, and what and what factors go into doing that evaluation?
It's a ton of research. So we are constantly, reading Hollywood Reporter, Variety, Deadline, et cetera, et cetera. But then, talking to each one of these various buyers, saying essentially, how can we help you? What can we create that will fill a hole in your schedule? What would be, we say all the time, what would be the one thing that you're looking for? What's the type of show? If there's another show out there, what show do you watch and you wish that it was yours? And the interesting thing is, it's when you're selling a television show, you're not really just selling that show to that network or that streaming service. You're not really just selling a show to Netflix or HGTV or Food Network. You're selling also a show to that person, because you're looking for the champion on the inside, that person who's going to, as I say, fall in love with it as much as you, and then really usher it all the way through until that moment where you're on the air and keep everything in line. And so you're also pitching a specific person. You're literally saying, what's the show that, Elizabeth, what's the show that you want more than anything else, that you are going to fall in love with, that you're going to go into every board meeting and say, this is the show that's going to change our future?
In the industry, is somebody putting their career on the line when they take that, that champion role? Or is it just kind of understood that some are going to fly and some aren't?
It's always understood that, basically we found this out 17, 18 years ago. We went and we asked people, network executives, production company executives, of every X number of shows that gets on the air, how many shows do you need before you get a hit? And back then, and I would say it's probably the same thing now, is essentially 1 out of 8. So there's so much content, and there's so many shows, and there's so many shots on goal. But that this is an industry where most things are going to fail. So that said, the way we treat it is they are risking their jobs, really, because you want that much love. You want them to march into the room and go, I'll stake my job on this show. This is going to be the 1 out of 8 or the 1 out of 10 or whatever it is. This show is going to make our network.
Kenya, did you have to do that with Passage to Profit?
No, actually, it was a hit right from the gate. So we were fortunate. And no one was doing anything like it on the radio. So, that's where we had the advantage, right? So I think back to what you were saying in terms of creativity, like just finding that niche and finding something that works super well. And that hasn't been done that way.
It always helps. I mean, it's to have something that's never been done and yet is incredibly comfortable with audiences. So I'm not sure exactly how you pitched this show, but to have any idea where you have an immediate frame of reference, we call it a one click. So there's There's an immediate frame of reference. 90%, 95% of what is going to happen, people immediately understand. And then one thing that's out of the box. So it's funny right now. We're looking at Louis here on the Zoom, and Louis has this sign behind him. Louis is going to present an amazing product later. I don't know what the product is, by the way, so who knows? But he's in front of a sign that says "Think outside the box," and I'm laughing because what we say is don't think outside the box, only because we've heard so many ideas over the years that are so out there that no executive could ever get behind it because it's just too complicated. They need to get the sales team and the marketing team and the programming team. So what we like to say is think just outside the box. You don't want to be in the box because in the box, every idea HGTV gets is exactly like every other, they've heard every version of House Hunters, right? But on the other hand, you don't want to think outside the box. There's this kind of grand, I'm going to come up with the next insane thing that's going to blow people's mind. And this is different. And that we've tried to pitch those never sell. But if you have a frame of reference on a show and then you come up with one thing that everyone can really hold on to, and this is landmark, this has never been done, that's usually something that might sell.
Yeah, I mean, having worked in a corporation at one point, it's tough to stick your neck out too far for something that's really so different that nobody knows what to do with it, right? And it's tough
to explain. That's that's the other thing we're constantly looking for is that line, that something. I was at a party once, and it was right when Game of Thrones started, it was an acquaintance of mine, and she was like one of the first people who watched it, and she said, "Oh my gosh, Game of Thrones is amazing," and she was talking to this guy who had no idea what it was, literally no idea. And so he was like, what is, Game of Thrones? It sounds crazy. What is it? And she said, it's like Lord of the Rings, but it's on HBO. And he said, wait, so it has sex and violence? And she's like, yeah, it has sex and violence. And she's like, it's HBO. So he's like sex? And she said, yeah, like sex. And he said, like violence? She's like violence. And I was like, well, there it is right there. Cause I don't, I'd never seen the show before, but immediately I was like, oh, I get it. And then you watch the show. It's not exactly that, but right there is the immediate frame of reference. You get, okay, it's kind of like Lord of the Rings. I like Lord of the Rings. I watched all 3 of those movies. They were giant hits, but it's on HBO. And that immediately, like all of a sudden your brain goes, oh, I get it. Oh, okay. And that's a great way to just start out, right? Because it's so easy then to get more viewers, because it's an easy, there's a giant frame of reference, and then you go from there. Or The Sopranos, right? It was, it's a mafia story, but it's a family drama, and that had never ever been done. We all knew of the Godfather movies. We all loved Goodfellas, one of the greatest movies of all time, I think. But Sopranos was doing something different. It was set in those same worlds, but this is the family drama version. Again, you have that frame of reference, but one thing that's different.
Well, can I ask you a question about Chopped? So, because we love that show.
1,000 questions. I love that show. It is one of my very favorite shows.
Yeah, it was amazing, like the format and the speedy and all that. But you had to have it speedy for TV, because otherwise people, you're not going to watch a cake bake for 2 hours. Right?
Although the big show before us, that was a cooking competition, was called Iron Chef. And it was it was originally done in another country, and then they brought it here to the United States, and it was on the Food Network, and the repeats of the version from Japan did really well. So the Food Network executives knew that cooking competition, did well. But we were the first people to say what you think, what is now so obvious, which is let's get it moving. And so our show was the very first show that had 3 competitions in the hour. And so essentially the pitch was, there was a lot involved in this pitch. But essentially the pitch was, it's Iron Chef meets the show Eliminate. The other people on this Zoom are too young to know the show Eliminate. But it was a trashy dating show where one woman would go on a date with 4 guys, and she would eliminate one right at the heart of every commercial break. So, who's she going to eliminate next? And then it was, again, trashy television where she would eliminate this guy, this guy, this guy. And then there would be one left, and whoever, then they jumped into the jacuzzi together, and that was that. So it was essentially, so the chopped pitch was essentially think Iron Chef meets Eliminate. And obviously they had never heard that before. No one had ever done it before. Now every cooking not everyone, but almost every cooking competition has 3 competitions in the hour. At that point in time in 2007, when we pitched the show, no one was doing that.
So did you get to pick the judges and the people that, so, I mean, because part of it is the personality, right? So,
yeah.
I mean, I a lot of these, we watch like these home improvement shows, and, it's the interplay between the man and the woman who are like, this, that, the other thing. So did you get any input into that?
We had an outstanding team we had an outstanding casting team, absolutely outstanding. And right from the very beginning, the whole goal was with those 4 chefs that are competing, make sure you instantly have someone to root for and or root against. Make sure you can immediately keep them separated in your head. All of that is deceptively difficult, because if you had 3 people and you were confused for a moment, you'd flip the channel. And that's one of the things about television you have to keep in mind, especially in unscripted, is you don't want people confused. If you're doing a game show, a competition show, it's just like a sporting event. As soon as somebody sits down and says, how do they get the 10 yards? I don't understand the 30 downs. They're not watching that football game, right? Unless you can explain to them, well, they get 4 chances to go 10 yards. Those are called downs. But if you don't have someone there to say that, you're not watching football because you're so confused. That's the same thing with game shows, competition shows, but even a format like House Hunters, you have to immediately understand what's happening. And if you're confused for a second, that show's not going to do well.
Wow. Well, I'm certainly taking your advice to heart here. And I know that, well, I think the entertainment business is certainly one of the toughest, because if you're pitching to a mass audience, figuring out that sort of grand psychology that is going to attract a large crowd is pretty interesting. And it does make sense to me why you would take baby steps, because the goal of television programming is entertainment, which in turn drives ad revenue. And you want to make sure that you stay on the rails that work pretty well. Are there shows out there that you found did surprisingly well that maybe you didn't think would do so well in the beginning? Or have you always kind of been able just to call it early on?
We're kind of, as I say, we do a lot of research. We're obsessed with whatever the new formats that are out there. The most recent one that Cleve called its success almost instantly. Honestly, I think she got it from the first announcement. Is the show The Masked Singer, which is a gigantic hit for Fox. It's about to enter season 5. And I will say, we had meeting after meeting, we're pitching other stuff, but at the beginning of those meetings, you're talking about the latest hits. And there was executive after executive that were like, oh my God, have you seen The Masked Singer? That's going to tank. Like, it's ridiculous. It's got Ken Jeong and Jenny McCarthy. Crazy costumes. Someone's dressed like a hippopotamus. This is insane. And I'll say, right from the beginning, Cleve was like, this is going to be gigantic, because it's a performance show. So, it's all, even the color scheme reminds you of American Idol. It reminds you of like those shows we've all been watching now for 20 years, right? Or 15 at least. And yet it has this one big, gigantic hook. Who's behind the mask? And that, she's like, that's as tried and true as Murder, She Wrote. Who's the murderer? She's like, that is going to be a gigantic hit. And she said it right from the beginning. And I will say, at first I was like, really? You're crazy. It's got a butterfly and a hippo. Come on.
Dave.
In Murder, She Wrote, they have a murder a week in Cabot Cove. It sounds like a pretty dangerous place to me. Every week there's a new murder.
It's like it has 30,000 people population. It's like, it's amazing there's anyone still alive.
My brother used to say, don't ever hang out with Jessica Fletcher. Don't do it. Someone will die.
So Kenya, I know you've got something to say here.
Yeah, well, Dave, I see not one but two Emmys, and they look pretty real behind you. So what is this?
That was just that I didn't do that on purpose. It's just they happen to be
they're
there.
they're so cool. I'm so fascinated by them. So what is the secret sauce to getting one of those?
That is luck. I'll tell you that is absolute luck. It really is. Like Emmys, you have no idea what's going to win. Every time you think you're doing well, you'll lose, or you won't even get nominated. And that's why when you see award shows, especially the Emmys, people are so shocked when they win, because none of us, I mean, there's never a moment where you think, at least in all my entire career, there's never a moment where I thought, oh, well, this is going to win an award. Like serious, like people say it, like maybe the camera guy or some lady with a clipboard will be like, oh, I think this could win awards. And they're like, no, it won't. It's not going to. It never does. So
well, they keep it that way, right?
That is luck.
They want people to be surprised, maybe.
I was, because I just heard Jason Sudeikis talking about how surprised he was for Ted Lasso. And if you watch Ted Lasso, which everybody should, he's so great in it. But he was like, we just made this crazy show in England. For one of the streaming services, I didn't even think people were going to watch it. And then all of a sudden, bang, now I have an Emmy Award. And I think that's all you can do is once you finally get that show up and running and they give you the 10 episodes or the 170 episodes, all you can do is hire the very, very best people. And then you just want the entire group of 100 plus humans to work as hard as possible towards the common goal of let's make the greatest television show of all time. And it's not going to be, Chopped or Seinfeld or Ted Lasso, but every once in a while it's Chopped or Seinfeld or Ted Lasso. And you it's amazing. And you're thrilled and you can't believe it.
So Dave, there's a lot of competition channel wise, like streaming, like Netflix, like Hulu, like Roku, like Apple, and then the networks, of course. And then, so do you have to pick one of those? Like, how do you decide where you're going to pitch the show?
Paul McCartney talks about writing songs and writing, with John Lennon, and how songs come from all these different places where it's sometimes you hear a chord and you're like, oh, that's the chorus. Or sometimes you write a line and he's like, then the whole song comes from that line. Or John comes in and says he's like, I've just been thinking this as I was walking over here. And that turns into, a hit song. And so every show we've ever worked on, the pathway is so different. And not only creating it, but pitching it is the same thing. Some shows, we were literally talking about a show an hour ago where we might only pitch it to 2 places, but we love it so much that we're going to reach out to those 2 places and pitch that show. And then some shows are these big, oh my gosh, we could pitch this 22 places. But that's basically what you're dealing with. Sometimes it's 1 or 2, and sometimes it's 20 or 22.
Well, I just want to point out that a lot of what you're saying on a smaller scale is applicable to entrepreneurs. And I think where you've been successful.
1,000%. That's definitely what I've learned over the years is that I call myself a TV entrepreneur just because, everything I've ever read from all the great entrepreneurs, and I have books and books and books on this, it's all that same thing, which is you're trying to create some sort of unique hook that captures as many people as possible, especially what Cleve and I are really trying to. We're not trying to create a niche show. We're really trying to create the next Survivor, Wheel of Fortune, Family Feud, Got Talent, House Hunters. We're trying to create a show that my 13-year-old daughter can watch and my 99-year-old grandmother can watch. And that's what so many products are too, where you're just trying to get as many potential eyeballs as possible, as many potential buyers as possible. And so much of what I read in all those entrepreneur books it's exactly the same as what we do. We just do it, on a very kind of grand, heightened, exhausting level. But if you're an entrepreneur, whether you're starting a new board game or starting a new box business or starting a new website, you similarly have to pour your soul into it and throw everything at it. And that's the only way to make it huge, 99 times out of 100.
So what's the most important thing about the pitch?
It's so hard. It's simplicity, and yet one aha moment, magical moment, something that they can fall in love with. Simple, and yet one thing that they're going to go, oh shoot, Dave and Cleve did it again. Look at that.
Can you give us a couple of examples of those hooks?
I mean, literally, let's go back to Masked Singer, right? Like it's literally, it's a that pitch. If we were pitching that show, we would go in and be like, hey, we have your next performance competition show. Think American Idol, think The Voice. But we're going to do one thing you've never, ever seen before. And it is going to blow people away. We're going to have a performance competition. It's going to be gigantic performances. But instead of the next 20-year-old singer trying to become Taylor Swift, we're going to have celebrities in outrageous costumes. And you're not going to know who's behind the mask. The show is called The Masked Singer. And over the course of 13 episodes, you have to figure out who are these insane major celebrities behind the mask. One's going to be dressed like a butterfly. One's going to be dressed like a unicorn. One's going to be dressed like a bunch of string beans. I don't know. It doesn't matter. But that is and you can see kind of what I've done there is there's a gigantic frame of reference. So it's very clear for everybody. We all picture American Idol right away, right? We all know what that looks like. And yet then there's one thing that they can go back and go, but it's going to be celebrities and they're going to be in crazy costumes. So for that, you'd probably bring in just examples of what the costumes might look like and then say, and you know who's behind that costume? It's going to be, a major celebrity. I would imagine they didn't pitch it with Donny Osmond in mind. He was in the first season and I know Donny, so I can make fun of him. So you pitch with and behind the mask is some big star, but then, you settle for Donny Osmond.
Well, he's not small potatoes, right?
No, and he's extremely talented and dude can sing insanely.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Well, that is a fun show. Well, I really hope you come up with another really cool new show. I've been watching some of the
So
new
do
game
I,
shows.
and the owners of my third daughter's college really would like to come up with another good show.
Well, I've been watching some of the game shows, and they're okay, but I don't reserve the time so I can tune in next
I
week.
think we've watched a lot of Family Feud episodes.
Well,
Steve Harvey
because of
is
Steve Harvey.
I just
right?
I look at that guy and it's like, how does he do that? And
When you go, so I've been and watched the show live. He is a monster. He just pours himself into. I mean, they can shoot 6 episodes a day. And when you go, he's basically just nonstop funny from the moment he hits the stage, during every commercial break, anytime they have to stop down, the whole audience is going crazy the entire time. And that's what a game show can do, is just be magical, right? Like, look at what has now happened with Jeopardy just over the course of the last 5 years. Where now, they've done this Jeopardy Tournament of Champions. Wheel of Fortune is now just doing Celebrity Wheel of Fortune. There's just something about a game show where it taps into, I don't know, all of us when we were sick and we would watch game shows as a kid, or you flip on the TV and that puzzle sound from Wheel of Fortune, or the tick, 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 tick from the wheel goes around and you just have to solve that puzzle. And that's what we're looking for with Chopped or America Says or any of the shows we create. Those things that everybody can watch and fall in love with and watch 1,000 times, for the next 50 years.
well, thanks to you and the people who can do that, because that's a special type of magic. And we have to take a break now, But we'll be back with more Passage to Profit right after this. Our special guest, Dave Noll.
You're listening to Passage to Profit, the Inventors Show on WOR 710, the voice of New York. We'll be right back.
Welcome back, everybody. This is Richard and Elizabeth Gearhart, special guest, Dave Noll. We are on to our Power Move segment. And Kenya, tell us who's on Power Move today.
Yes, because it is Women's History Month. I thought we would find a woman who's making history currently. Her name is Pippa Lamb. She is an angel investor, and she was actually one of the first women who invested in Clubhouse, right? So ironically, we were just talking about Clubhouse a couple seconds ago. So Clubhouse, they thought it was either going to die out by July or it was going to thrive. And it's thriving above and beyond they can ask or think. It's worth about $5 billion right now. So I just wanted to highlight her today as one of the women who is making moves to invest in the tech of the future. Who thought a little app with people talking would just go crazy, and everybody's on it now. So
$5 billion?
5 billion.
That's pretty quick money. Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
But you still have to have an iPhone and you have to be invited. So if you can get invited to Clubhouse now with an iPhone and start your house, then you're going to be really well positioned, because once they open it up to Android and everybody else, then everybody's going to have something. So if you could start building now, you're in a lot better shape, right?
For sure. Yeah. It was invite only back in December, like early this year. And then now it's kind of opened up a lot more. So it's easier to get an invite than it once was, but they just opened up recently the ability to apply for an actual Clubhouse. So if you've been trying to get a Clubhouse and you haven't been approved in the last few months, they opened up that window the other day. So it's a lot easier for you to get approved. There was all these credentials before, like you had to host a house for a long time. It was all this stuff, but now it's a little easier to get a house. So now's the time to jump on the Clubhouse bandwagon and make it work for yourself.
So we were at one of our staff meetings earlier this week, and we were talking about Clubhouse. And one of the older attorneys said, well, isn't that just like being on a speakerphone? So
Kind of, with a little picture.
Yeah. So no, but it's a great tool, and we've been on a few Clubhouse presentations. So it's promising to be a lot of fun. And
it is. It's really interesting. Anyways, I listen to it when I'm too tired to do anything else. and also if I'm walking or,
And Passage to Profit is going to have, you're going to have your Clubhouse.
Yes, we're going to start it as soon as Richard gets on. So we had to find another iPhone because we both have Droids right now. But we had an old iPhone sitting around. So he's got to get his iPhone back activated. And then I've invited him. So he's just got to accept it. And then we're like full steam ahead.
I'm in the club.
You're in the club.
So we're going to start with joke night. I think we're just going to have people call in and tell jokes, and that'll be the whole program. And probably Friday night around 7 or 8ish.
Yeah, what's your favorite joke?
Alcohol is optional, but
nothing offensive. Everybody gets to come up to the stage. No dumb blonde jokes, because I'm blonde.
No lawyer jokes.
No, but
well, maybe a few.
Congratulations to Pippa Lamb. That is awesome.
Yeah.
So for those of you who don't know about this, I started Fireside Directory about a year ago. So what I do is, and right now I'm generating the content, but I'm hoping that pretty soon the content will just come. But I interview small to medium-sized business owners, and I put them on my YouTube channel on my website. It's called Fireside Directory. The website is fireside.directory. And when I started, it was a little more out of the box than it is now, because I started right before COVID.
But because Dave is here, it's actually in the box.
Well, it's closer to the box now.
Closer
it's
to the box.
Because I wanted to interview people in our studio up here in Summit, New Jersey, in front of a camera and a microphone and everything. And of course that all ended, but I was just going to start with lawyers in the Northeast, and then COVID hit and everything went to Zoom. It actually helped Fireside because people are so comfortable on Zoom now, and they don't even know that you're recording them. So it really is just like a fireside chat where I just talk to people about their business.
That you're recording them, right?
Well, that's the whole point.
Right.
But anyway, I
that's
feel
illegal
like,
in some states, by the way.
I feel like people are much more authentic.
Criminal entrepreneur. Fireside Directory is a great idea if you're an entrepreneur and you want to promote your business. It cuts down on your networking time. People get to know you as a person and get to know your business. And that way there's either a connection or there's not. So it'll really save time for people who are, searching for a professional real estate agent, attorney, physician, whomever. And
business coaches, a lot of business coaches.
a lot of
Thank
business
you.
coaches.
So I'm in phase 1 now, which is content creation and collection. So I'm trying to partner with people. Now in 2021, everybody's doing these little videos, right? So I don't need to do them all myself. I just want to agglomerate them on the site. So my vision for this is it's a cross between the Yellow Pages and Wikipedia for small business by video. I do want to make it huge. I feel like it's closer to the box than it was before because now everybody's doing videos and everybody's on Zoom. So I've got, I don't know, 150 videos or something now. It's been a lot of work, but I love talking to the business owners because everybody is fascinating and they all do things differently. So I'm going to do phase 1 is content. Phase 2 is marketing. So once I get some proof of concept, then I'm going to approach investors. But I'm not there yet. So I have to get enough content on the site so that when people come to look at it, there's something to see.
Something to see.
Yeah.
No. So it's really a great place, and you'll hear some great stories and learn about some fantastic businesses.
So now we are on to our first presenter.
And who would that be?
So Josh Goodman, never wait at the bar behind a clump of people again. Hey, Josh, tell us what you have.
So yeah, just a little bit about Pour My Beer and what we're doing and how we do it. Really, we were built out of the idea that when you go to a bar or restaurant, you're typically waiting 20, 30 minutes to get what you went there for. So we have this whole concept of door to pour in 60 seconds. So you walk in the bar, you get an RFID card or wristband, and you're basically your own bartender for the evening. So you can pour an ounce or two of a cocktail that you want to try, or a wine or beer, and you're getting charged by the ounce or by the 1/10 of an ounce. So at the end of the night, whatever you've poured is what you're going to get charged for.
So how did this idea come up? It sounds like it was born from frustration.
Yeah, it's I wouldn't say I'm the most impatient person, but I was doing Easy Pass before Easy Pass was a thing. I don't like lines. So
so it was like that driving through the toll booth, or
just going off road. You just got to go off road. But yeah, I was out with a bunch of friends, and it was an awful experience. And I thought to myself, I'm not the only one having an awful experience because of the inefficiencies, but the owners are losing money. And so I saw it as a dual problem that I could solve if I could just figure out how to connect the dots.
So the idea behind the product, though, is that you have multiple taps along a wall, right? And then somebody can just step up to put their credit card in, pull the tap that they want for the beer or the drink or whatever it is that they're buying, and they don't have to wait. They don't have to wait in line. And in today's world, you're also doing some social distancing too, right? So
no, you can come work for me. You just nailed all of our points there, if you'd like to. But yeah, the whole idea is
I'll patent it for you.
You might drink all the product.
Yeah,
let's try this one. Let's try this one.
I'm a dangerous person to put in a bar. But
yeah, I mean, you summed it up pretty accurately. I mean, the goal is that you have anywhere from say 20 to some of our locations have 200 taps, and you can walk in and everything is clearly marked on the screens. The screens are interactive, so when you put your card there, it would say hey Dave, or hey Louie, or hey Elizabeth, and it would tell you how to use the product. And then while you're pouring, it's showing you your responsibility limit going down and your ounces going up, as well as how much you've spent. So throughout the entire experience, you have full transparency to what's going on the screen. And at the end of the night, you get a little receipt, and you can have it texted to you that says exactly what you had that evening.
Wow.
Does it cut you off if you're drinking too much?
Wait, I wanted to, it's a machine, but I wanted to make it have a personality. So when you do hit your limit, it's going to say something like, hey, beautiful, you've reached the point in the evening where one of our staff needs to reauthorize your card, or, please flag them down, and we can make that message customizable.
So Dave, you must have a comment here. What are your thoughts on this product?
I got to say, I absolutely love this, and I love it for so many reasons. my favorite, like so many reasons. The whole door to pour in 60 seconds is unbelievable. And that's the kind of magic, if you don't have you don't need a great title. If you have an amazing tagline, or the best is to have both, or a one sentence description of what your product is. But the magic of the phrase door to pour in 60 seconds is like, that's something where every show we pitch, we're reaching and striving for that type of magic. It solves a problem. It's like, yes, who wouldn't want door to? I don't care what you're pouring. I would like it in 60 seconds. And what's cool is knowing about your product and your process. I believe the first version of this was in like 2008. You said, is that what it was?
Yes. Yeah. Well, it was it was a version of self-service, but not where it was on an actual physical wall.
I mean, what's amazing is, and again, I hear this time and time again, all these different successful products is you learn so much from failure, and people are so afraid of failing. And I want to, either hug them or strangle them, because you say every great product, every great brand came mostly from failure, usually, right? Like, but the fact that you just stuck it out and failed and failed and failed again with a smile on your face and kept going to the point where you get to the magic of door to pour in 60 seconds. It could be 200 taps on a wall. I mean, that's amazing. And that encouragement that I would give to anyone out there who's looking to create anything that is wildly successful. You look at a bar and you're like, well, how could I possibly make that experience any better, right? Bars have been around forever. I don't know about forever, but for a very long time.
Well, before I was born. So.
Good gravy. There were bars around even before Richard was born. And but that the magic of you could actually create an experience to make bars better, faster, using the technology of today, and using a couple great phrases, a couple great ideas put together. And that's really what every entrepreneur is striving for every single moment of every day.
Yeah.
Excellent. Kenya, do you have a comment too?
Just curious, like, where did this idea come from? Like, were you sitting around one day and just like, we need to just do this? Like, what was the thinking?
It came from, so after I left the bar and left my friends hanging and, didn't even pay my portion of the tab, I don't think, that night, I ended up, I wrote out like a business plan. It was pictures, it was a PowerPoint, but my original idea was like an ATM machine, which is kind of funny because there was this viral video on one of our systems in New York City called the Beer ATM, which kind of brings it full circle. So, my original idea was that you could go to like an ATM type situation. You could verify your age, pay for it, and then you get your beer. I had to basically become a paralegal in every state to get approval, because you can't just sell someone a $20,000 or $50,000 item and say, hey, trust me, it'll be okay. So I had to go to every state's legal system, or their LCB or liquor board, and just confirm that our system is no different than a pitcher of beer, a bottle of wine. It's not completely self-service. It's controlled self-service. And that's not in a guide. No one told me, hey, this is how you're gonna have to build this business. But it was just kind of like, I think Uber had to do when they were building their business. They had to get through all these little hurdles that just weren't laid out for them very clearly.
Where can I find this in Northern New Jersey?
So we have a 250 locations across the United States and another 50 internationally. So yeah, you definitely can just go to our website, pourmybeer.com, and it'll find your location and find the closest one to you. But yeah, New York's probably the closest one to you. I don't think New Jersey's jumped that bridge.
Taken the leap yet? No.
Yeah.
Well, I just have to say, based on personal experience, that I think this is a great idea, because we used to go into New York City a lot, and by the end of the day, you'd be on that train and you're coming along and you're like, I can't wait for that first glass of wine. Now, I don't drink every day anymore, but there was a point where, and I actually started doing research about how I could remotely pour a glass of wine so that it was there waiting for me when I got there. So there are people who are really going to appreciate door to pour for sure.
Yeah, I know Dave has something else to say. So Dave, what do you think?
We're learning a lot about Richard today. I'm a little scared for him, but that's good. No, but here's one of the things I love is one of the questions I always get is creating TV shows. What's the first step? I have an idea for a TV show. What's the first step? I have this thought. What's the first step? I'm a new real estate agent. And I know it sounds simple, but so many people have so much fear. And so one of the things I say is, what is the first step? It is take the first step. That's it. The most important thing is to take the first step. Do it. And that's like, look at, when you say that story, on the one hand, you could think to yourself, well, it's now 13 years later. Was that worth it? And it's, of course it was worth it. Of course it was worth it. He left the bar and he wrote that, taking the first step that night. And it's, if an idea is that good, just do it. Throw your whole essence into it every hour of every day that's left over. And then fail along the way. And that's where miracles come from.
That's absolutely accurate. And then, there's no, everyone wants this clear path to victory. There's no clear path to victory when it comes to starting a business. And you are going to get, I always say I'm numb to the pain now. It's just, I embrace the pain. The pain is good. But yeah, that was, writing the story. Then I had to build a unit that I didn't know how to build. There was no blueprint for it. So I built a system that would allow self-service, and you need those little wins along the way while you're getting beat up. But, you got to know that you're going to get beat up along the way.
Yeah. Well, we work with a lot of first-time inventors at Gearhart Law. And those are our favorite clients because they're full of passion and energy. And they have new ideas, and it's always great to hear about them. And a lot of them say, well, what if I don't make it? What if and I always say, well, you'll learn something. You'll learn something about yourself. Either the entrepreneur world is for you or it's not. And if it doesn't work out, you'll decide, I'm going to try another project, or I'm going to go back and get to a 9-to-5 job. But you learn something about yourself. And many people have ideas that they've never tried, and they always say the things that you regret most are the things that you didn't try. So I'm really on board with being willing to fail, and it's hard to do. For me personally, I have a hard time accepting failure, but I've had to accept it many, many, many times. So
right. So
one more pitch for Dave. So Dave, what do you think about the other tagline, at the corner of convenience and community?
I would immediately say that's garbage. And here's why. Like literally, door to pour in 60 seconds. When you hit it, you have, right? Like there's a point, and the other thing you said was you kept pitching to all your friends. I think that absolutely. And one of the things we've learned is you keep talking and never just listen to one person. I don't care who that person is. The only person I would ever listen to every single time is when we worked for Barry Diller, who's a multi-billionaire and started the Fox network and is a titan of industry. Whenever he said anything, I would listen right away. But everyone else is basically going to just give you their random opinions. But what happens is it starts to build a consensus in your head. Door to pour in 60 seconds to me is so good. And the two words rhyme. There's so much about it that it's got a number in it. People love numbers. It almost hits everything that we love about a great title or a great tagline. There's a mystery. How do I do it? Where does it go? What am I pouring?
Yeah. So Josh, seriously, you're going to have to come back on the show. And Dave, if you ever want to come back too, obviously, but I want to hear how this goes. Like I seriously, and I want to check it out. So when we can go in New York, which hopefully will be in a couple months, we're going to go. where this exists.
So do you
Just
need
a quick update. We did close a Series A round with Coca-Cola European Partners.
Great.
They took a stake in our company in September. So we're definitely going in the right direction when, you know, the largest beverage company in the world says we want a piece of that. You know?
That sounds great. And do you need a glass when you operate the tap? Can you just-
We're working on one where you don't have to touch it, where you can just put
maybe
your
a
glass
hose,
there.
right? From the tap to your mouth.
I'm
Anyway,
sure it cuts you off. Anyways, we have to end this segment. I am so excited about this. It'll be a lot of fun when it's everywhere. So you are listening to Passage to Profit, the Inventor Show with Richard and Elizabeth Gearhart. Our special guest, Dave Noll. Stay tuned. We have much more coming up. And if you missed anything, we've had some great content so far. Our podcast comes out tomorrow. You can see all these gorgeous looking people on our YouTube channel. We always get really good people on the show.
we do.
And you can see the pictures that they've sent us to cut into the video. So Passage to Profit show on YouTube, please subscribe. That really helps us and it'll help promote the show. And we will be right back.
Welcome back, everybody. Passage to Profit with Richard and Elizabeth Gearhart, and our special guest tonight, Dave Noll, who has just been a wealth of so many different types of information. So make sure you catch the show if you're just tuning in now.
He's really interesting to talk to. He's fun. You know?
I really, very, very large perspective. And so
a lot of great advice.
It's always good to get that. So for our next presenter, we have Arielle Crawford, and they're from the Bio Romper Company. And tell us about your product. We're very curious.
So BioRomper is a full body jumpsuit that provides style, comfort, and peace of mind for travelers. So it's made from a recycled fabric that's treated with a silver ion-based antimicrobial finish, which we can talk a little bit more about. But basically our goal with BioRomper is to plot a bold new course for the future of travel wear. We like to call it our super suit, and it's designed to blend fashion and function for people on the move, whether they're simply headed across town on public transit or ride share or hopping on an airplane. So the inspiration for BioRomper came back in the spring, summer of last year when myself and two of our other co-founders saw images of hyper cautious travelers wearing full-blown hazmat suits at the airport to board airplanes during the early stages of the COVID-19 pandemic. So these pictures kind of immediately sparked two lines of thinking. One, how could we create something more practical than a hazmat suit for concerned travelers, something that retains some of those functional benefits of kind of a coverall garment, while still being aesthetically appealing. And two, that initial spark of inspiration kind of ballooned into this larger realization that there's very little innovation in the travel wear space. Traveling is so often icky, uncomfortable. It requires a lot of exposure to people and shared surfaces. And for the most part, people typically just reach for crews and sweats and leggings, which check the comfort box, but, aren't really explicitly designed for the travel experience. So our goal from the jump has been to create, kind of a new travel essential, just like neck pillows or roller bags, kind of the perfect slip-on garment for when you're on the move and want to feel comfortable, look stylish, and have some added peace of mind.
So can you describe what it looks like? You said it's a jumpsuit. Any other details?
Yeah, sure. Arielle, do you want to kind of describe the garment and maybe a little bit about the design process?
Sure, yeah. The guys from Loeb reached out to me in early pandemic to help design this product. I've been in the fashion space for a long time, specifically in sustainable fashion. And so the first thing that I thought when they came to me, and something that I had realized was becoming, sort of the second pandemic, is the single-use plastic space. And so, especially given that the pandemic, as far as we know, is a result of environmental destruction, to me, it seemed ludicrous to put something else out there that was made out of either virgin plastic or was going to be single-use. And so I set to work with really scrupulous detail in making something that was truly sustainable and protective. And so the garment is unisex. And so it really can span the space of, I really think it's attractive on anyone. And that was part of my design process, was what can look good during the pandemic, but also afterwards, because we don't want to feel, unsexy on top of being in a pandemic.
I'm assuming that it's black and it's one piece down to your ankles and your wrists and up to your neck, your throat. Is that right?
Correct. Full coverage. It includes a hood. It has elasticated edges at the wrists and at the ankles, a draw cord waist. It comes in black. And then we've just launched a new color called Aviator Green.
Wow.
So it's kind of hearkening to your grandfather's flight suit, but another tagline of ours is not your grandfather's flight suit, given that it's really modernized with this technology.
I love that. So Dave.
I think it looks amazing. I've been looking at it online as you were talking. How does it keep you warm? Because I'm always cold on airplanes. And I have been a bit of a germaphobe, although my wife would be laughing hard by hearing me say a bit. And that was even pre-pandemic. So how does it help me stay safe on an airplane, which I always assumed got me sick every single time I went on an airplane?
Yeah, totally. So, I think there's a couple elements that help you have that added peace of mind. One, it's a coverall garment. So it's something that you can easily slip on over more comfortable clothes and kind of keep as your dedicated, I'm wearing this when I'm going to be exposed or have to, sit on public surfaces and so on and so forth. So there's that physical barrier component. And then additionally, as I mentioned at the beginning, it's treated with what's called a silver ion antimicrobial agent. So silver ions are kind of a well-documented antimicrobial. They suppress the growth of, bacteria, fungi, even some viruses that kind of come into contact with the textile. So all of our fabric is dipped in a bath at the mill where it's cut that contains the silver ion treatment. It's skin safe. It's actually pretty environmentally and friendly. And through some testing that we've ran to kind of validate the efficacy of the treatment, we've proved that it can reduce, certain strains of staph and pneumonia up to 99.99% compared to a control sample where the same, pathogens were still, 50%. There was still 50% left on the garment after the same time period. So those two kinds of things in concert are what are meant to kind of appeal to the germaphobe who's looking at this thing.
And just to add a little bit about the user experience, it comes in a draw cord bag. So the idea is that after you're done flying, before you step into your home or wherever you're coming home from, you take off the garment, you put it in the bag, and you wash the whole thing together so you don't have any contamination into your home.
Mm-hmm.
Or if you're on the way to the hotel room, either you step into the men's room and take it off, or when you get to the hotel room, it's the first thing you pop into the bag. That's cool.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's cool. Is there an age range? Like, I'm looking at your gorgeous models that are wearing the product. Is it marketed towards 25-year-olds, or are you thinking for anybody?
We weren't sure who our primary demo was going to be when we launched. I mean, we really sprinted to market. This was a concept last summer, a prototype late summer, early fall, and we launched in October 2020. So, I mean, we were just really bullish about the whole idea, just getting it out there and just validating the demand. And it turns out that there kind of are two sort of power buyers. One is a younger demo that likes to travel, has some expendable income, that really misses getting back out there. And it, the sort of fashionable elements of it appeals to them. And then there are slightly older folks who I think are wearing it out of an abundance of caution right now and moving forward. So the age range is pretty wide. I mean, it goes from people who are like, 25 and living in, Brooklyn to people all across the country who are in their 50s, 60s, even 70s, who, are buying them for, themselves and their partner because they have an upcoming trip that they're concerned about.
Yeah, I mean, I wish these had been available when our kids were young and could send them to school.
Oh, yeah.
The germ factory.
Stop bringing all the germs home to us, right?
Well, I think it'd be really cool to see a whole family dressed up together with these. It'd be
I don't
fun.
know. I'm not sure that I like it. It's like awkward family photos where everybody's
so
watching
fun.
to say,
Put on your flight suit.
We have been
No, we
thinking
should
about
check
kid
out their-
sizes,
the-
so keep it in
You
mind.
should check out their website. It has really some pretty cool photos. So I'm not sure whether I would put it like in the James Bond category or the Matrix category, but you're definitely taking a step into the future.
I think it's sci-fi meets fashion myself. Like this
That's
is
a good
like
way to say it.
it's the next step, right? It's like so we used to say this on the show all the time. We love the future. We love looking at the products of the future. So like both the things that we've seen so far today are really products of like moving things forward, products of the future. So allowing you to get as drunk as you want, as fast as you want.
What a future that could be, right?
I love this. I love it. So I'm a germaphobe. I will buy this in a second when I get back to flying again, COVID or no. Well, I won't fly during COVID probably, but I would wear this on the plane because I want to be comfortable. And I do want some, like whenever we travel, I wash my clothes the minute I get home.
Yeah, but you would germaphobe everything. You germaphobe baggies, you germaphobe garbage can liners, you germaphobe me if you could.
Well, I think the silver is a brilliant touch. I mean, when you think about it, people used to eat with silverware. Why was that? It was because of the antimicrobial properties of silver, right?
Well-known antimicrobial, being a geeky patent guy, we've run across a lot of inventions about different types of silver compounds killing bacteria, and it is one of the most effective. So, I mean, does the solution that you dump it in, does that add a lot of cost to the product then? Is that an expensive process? I mean, when you're talking silver, that's like a precious metal, right?
I don't believe so. No. Arielle, do you recall? I don't think that really was a significant per unit addition.
It's not really. When it comes to fabric manufacturing, technical finishes are pretty common actually, like waterproofing or whatever. And so it's kind of just an add-on.
Great.
What does it feel like? What does the fabric feel like? Is it soft? Is it coarse?
It's quite drapey and smooth and silky. We really wanted something wrinkle resistant as well. So, you know, part of traveling is you don't want to, look like hell when you get off the plane. You wanna...
Well, any more than normal.
Well, you can change your clothes, but you can't change you, right? So,
So
it kind of feels a little bit like Lululemon or athleisure garments, where it has, it's a polyester spandex mix. Just a little bit of spandex, so it has a little bit of four-way stretch. It's pretty breathable, but it will also keep you warm. Quite honestly, it can be worn in any season. Arielle's brother was recently in Miami and was wearing it outside there, and I just flew for the first time in 6 months from New York out west, and I wore it and was comfortable in the cold. So it can it doesn't really, it's not really tethered to any season, which is also a nice thing.
Well, it sounds like a great product. One last question, Dave?
The only other thing I was going to say, and it's not really a question, but as you were doing the initial pitch, what was amazing is the first words you said, Evan, right out of your mouth, fascinated me. Like you were talking about the science of it and the future of it. And immediately my brain was like, I sensed as a germaphobe, like, wait a second, this is interesting. And so I really enjoyed the beginning of that pitch because people do, no matter what you're pitching, there's a natural desire for the future. The people just want to know, and then once you get to explain the product, I think yes, COVID has or will tilt everyone towards at least a partial germaphobe. Not everyone, but a lot of people. And then flu season every year, like as soon as I get on a plane in the fall or like when there's a chill in the air, I'm immediately like freaking out. So I am sure if I am not wearing this the next time I'm on a plane in like October, will immediately go, why didn't you get the suit?
Well, we love to hear that. No, totally. I mean, the kind of aha moment was when we realized, okay, on one end of the spectrum, I could put on leggings and a crew neck, or on the other end of the spectrum, I could put on a hazmat suit. That's a pretty big middle territory that hasn't been explored at all. How can we create something that sort of bridges those two and pushes apparel forward in this space?
And what's cool is you're basically saying, put on the leggings and the turtleneck or whatever you need, but then put this over it, look fabulous, look like you're a spy from the future, and get on the plane and feel safer.
Yeah,
Yeah.
100%.
And I think that comfort piece is really important nowadays. And knowing that you're protected from germs is a big step forward. So fantastic product. And where can our listeners find you?
At bioromper.com. And you should also follow our Instagram at bioromper.
Great.
Okay, we can buy them there, and you have all the sizes and everything.
That's correct. And like Arielle said, the green version is launching hopefully tomorrow on the website. So you can go ahead and check that out as well.
Awesome.
I like the green. I wore the green last week. That's my favorite.
Great. Well, Richard can have green. I'm going to take black. So
There you go.
I want the black.
It's beautiful.
You can have the green. You have green eyes. You look better in green.
We'll settle this fight later.
We'll settle this fight later. But in the meantime, you're listening to Passage to Profit on WOR 710 iHeartRadio with Richard and Elizabeth Gearhart. We'll be right back after this.
Welcome back, listeners. You are listening to Passage to Profit, the Inventor Show on WOR 710, the voice of New York, with our special guest, Dave Noll. This is Richard and Elizabeth Gearhart, and we are on to our final presenter, Louis Torres with UnleashedConsulting.com. Welcome, Louis.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure so far learning from everybody's stories and hearing their journeys. So as far as mine, it actually began with, like a lot of people with problem dogs, a disgruntled, feisty 10-year-old Chihuahua. Okay. And exactly. So my story is before I created Unleashed Marketing, I had a very successful marketing agency. I have a background in sales from my Wall Street days to my recruitment consultant days. And when I had an opportunity to learn about dog training, again, to establish a relationship with this angry little fella, I saw a huge opportunity in the market. And there was two things that I saw particularly in this market. I saw a lack of information and a lack of opportunities for these people that have a way with dogs and a way to communicate with them and teach other people how to communicate with their dog. The third thing that I did see in the market as well was with millennials, where it's kind of like, before you get married, before you get the house, the first thing that you do in your relationship now is you get a dog, before the kid. And it's all my friends have done it, colleagues, people that I went to school with. The first step is you get a dog to make sure that you're a good fit, right? So now we kind of look at our dogs as a part of our family. It's a little different than it was, 20, 30 years ago. And when you want your animal to become part of your family, there's a relationship that you need to build. So we send our kids away to go to school, right? Kind of. Some parents send them away, some, it's for their benefit. But, when your kid goes to school, they learn how to be socialized. They learn how to raise their hand before they speak. They learn manners, right? So if we want our dogs to be a part of our families, we should be doing the same thing. So it's, I had my experience. It was definitely an eye-opener. And with my business background, I saw a huge opportunity. I decided to rebrand my business, fire all my old clients, and go all in on Unleashed Consulting. And here's the crazy part. When I went all in, literally about a year ago, right before the pandemic hits. So it was a little scary when I decided to go all in. And now, I'm dipping into my savings, for our business.
So your business is actually marketing for dog trainers, right? So as a marketing person, you really narrowed it down to a very specific niche, but a huge niche. I mean, there's a ton of dog trainers out there and dog owners, right? Is that correct?
Yeah, exactly. So my previous marketing agency, I helped restaurants, accountants, big gyms, salons, all types of different franchises to the small mom and pop shops grow their businesses, scale to 7 and 8 figures with a lot of the marketing strategies that I have accumulated over, the last 5 years of owning Kingsley Media. And I saw the opportunity in the pet industry, and just like you said, they just didn't know how to market. They didn't know how to get the information out there. And when they get their information out there, are they reaching their ideal audience? Who's the ideal audience? 80% of households in the United States have a dog. It's crazy. Like it's insane, but that's your market. Almost everybody.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, it's so funny because our son and his fiance have 2 dogs.
Right. And their wedding invitation has them with their 2 dogs.
I'm sure one of them's going to be the ring bearer or one's going to be the flower girl.
We haven't asked that question yet.
Probably be at the wedding, yes.
Right?
So it's really true, but dogs absolutely have to be trained, and finding a good dog trainer, I think there might have been, okay, Dave, was there a TV show about this before?
It's interesting because what I have just noticed and what Cleve has noticed, Cleve is the person I create shows with, is the amazing transformation in the last couple of years with when you go to a Target or a Walmart, how the pet aisle used to be, a third of an aisle or whatever. And now that it's like 5 aisles long, there's pet food, pet products, pet toys. And I actually think it hasn't even reached peak dog yet. Like, I feel like you're totally right. And there's this attitude now where the dog really is the first step. You are absolutely correct. And I have talked to so many people where they're out of their minds trying to train the dog in the first couple months. And I think, even though you were saying it happened during COVID, it might even be the best thing for you, because so many people, as they were sitting home during COVID, went out to get the dog. And I can completely imagine that all of the dog trainers out there have no idea at all how to reach people on Instagram or LinkedIn or anything. So I think it's fascinating.
Yeah, if we spent as much time training couples as we did our dogs, maybe things would be better off too. I don't know, but
well, I'm guilty. I got a cat during COVID, so
What?
We get our.
Well, neither one of us have been vaccinated yet, but we did notice that there are some apes in the Los Angeles Zoo who did get the vaccination.
So
we're kind of thinking about that and wondering what all that means. But my dad grew up on a farm, and an animal was food, and so things have changed a lot.
Just a little bit,
What do you offer? What are you actually, so if I'm a dog trainer, a local dog trainer, and all of a sudden I'm looking around and the market is growing and growing and growing, and I want to basically say, hey, I'm here. What are you offering them?
Great question. So originally, my bread and butter was Facebook ads. And when people think the term Facebook ads, they get all sorts of different ideas. I use Facebook ads when we work in their audience, and that's where they hang out, right? You want to go where your people are hanging out. And that's where we initially started. But the Facebook ad for me is really the tip of the iceberg. It's just to get a click. I won't bore you guys with the technical aspects of digital marketing, but I run them through a sales funnel with my technology, which includes email automations, text automations, the whole play that's going to create an opportunity, right? So when we talk about marketing, there's brand, there's, lead generation, there's so many different things that we can talk about. But for me, I like to sum it up in one word. And I think, Dave, you mentioned this earlier, opportunity. That's really all it is. Once the opportunity is created, which can be a phone call, it can be an email opt-in, now it's in the hands of sales, right? So marketing did its job. Some people get confused with marketing spilling over to sales. It's actually incorrect. As soon as marketing does its job and gives you the opportunity, now it's sales turn to go ahead and complete the transaction. So we offer pretty much, the Google side of things, the Facebook side, and it's all paid social is really what we focus on. We don't do any organic. Organic is great, but the system that we created is all about getting quick results, because that's the world we live in now. Everyone wants instant gratification, so we had to adopt.
Wow.
But that's what we offer. And then in addition to this, the marketing, what really makes us different was I had to figure out what I can do to keep retention, because marketing is great. And I can give business owners opportunities in this niche or any niche, really. But what it comes down to is that small businesses and medium-sized businesses don't have a sales process that they've tested and fine-tuned and they practice. So what I have done is I've taken my background and from my Wall Street days and from a recruitment consultant and owning a recruitment consulting business, and helping these business owners understand sales. And I've created a program so when they purchase my marketing, they also get access to my sales course where they get to understand how to guide that person, how to nurture them, and how to close them on that opportunity. Especially in this niche, it's so massive because these people are animal people. They're introverted. They don't really like to interact with humans, and they have to learn how to do that and have to learn how to understand their needs and if they can solve a problem in the first place. And if they can do that, then there's no reason why they shouldn't buy their product or service.
Wow. I guess people in the dog business prefer dogs to people, right? I mean,
They do.
that sounds a little counterintuitive, but you're probably right.
But I think it sounds like you have a very powerful, well thought out program going. And you're right. Sales is so different from marketing, and people lump them both together, and they really are different beasts and are different pieces of the puzzle, shall we say. So are you working with people across the country now? Are you just in the US, or how far is your reach?
We are over 100 trainers nationwide. We're in Australia, Canada, and the UK as well. So we work with trainers that do in-home training that don't have a facility, right? Just, kind of hustling and grinding and doing the local mom and pop thing, to franchises that have locations all over the country and have facilities and staffs of 20 to 30 people. So
Dave, what do you tell your clients about the sales process?
I mean, this is as we were talking about at the beginning of the show, the whole idea of thinking just outside the box. This is a brilliant example of it, in that we've all heard about people who are going to help you with your marketing, whether it's mostly, real estate agents, doctors, gyms, all of these things. Everyone needs help with their marketing now because it's so hard to get a leg up. But what did you do? You, because of personal experience, because of some thought inside your head, found a niche, a just outside the box that, there's the box of all these marketers that are out there to help people. But I had never personally heard of one before that was going to focus specifically on dog trainers. And that's the perfect just outside the box example.
Yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of marketing people tell you who's your target audience, focus in, just go after these people. And this is the probably first marketing person I've met who actually really did that. Right?
It seems like a narrow niche, and there's so many marketing companies out there. I think this is a brilliant. I assume you like dogs too, right, Louis?
Dog dad, that's me. So I wanted to, just because Dave brought it up earlier, I wanted to bring this up. So when I imagine having my kid one day, I imagine going to the toy store and getting to play with all the toys that I grew up playing with and kind of being a kid again, right? So I don't have, my child yet, but I did go to Target, and I saw this little guy, and it's a Nerf gun that I can shoot these tennis balls out and my dog can play fetch.
Brilliant.
Right? So
Nerf.
I'm the dog dad now. I'm on my puppy that I'm raising now. She's a 4-month-old blue heeler. My 14-year-old now Chihuahua is not the biggest fan, but they're starting to get along a little bit. But yeah, no, it just getting into this space has been amazing. It's a space that has had no guidance and no direction when it comes to marketing or sales or growing their business. They've been neglected by marketing agencies. And once I had the opportunity to get the training and to get my quote from my trainer of how expensive it was, that's when I realized that there's a massive opportunity. Massive opportunity.
Well, and I really hope that you can reach all dog owners, because every dog needs training. And a lot of people don't realize that.
Every dog.
We have to wrap up. And this has been really interesting. Congratulations to you. And congratulations for taking the plunge. It's tough, but hey, you did it. So you are listening to Passage to Profit, the Inventor Show on WOR 710 with Richard Elizabeth Gearhart. Our special guest, Dave Noll. If you missed any of the show, it's on our YouTube channel and you can see everybody. And it will be a podcast tomorrow. And we have had amazing content, amazing companies. Dave Noll is so fun to talk to. So please go see the rest of the show. We'll be right back.
Well, welcome back, everybody, to Passage to Profit. It's been such a fantastic show. We've had fantastic guests. And before we leave, I'd like to ask Dave, do you have any parting thoughts for our audience?
What a great show it's been. Thank you so much for inviting me on. It is a very cool show, and we've had 3 very cool products today. One of the things when I talk to either college students or people who are just starting off, or anyone who's just starting off as an entrepreneur, it's create the Venn diagram of what makes you you. So, what is it that you're really passionate about? What makes you money? Obviously, that is so important. And, people have these big dreams, but at the end of the day, it's like, look, there needs to be money involved or else it's not going to last very long. But then also, what makes you memorable? And it is very interesting today. There's so many good examples. Josh, as I say, I called it out right away. The whole door to pour in 60 seconds. That line is going to stick with me forever. And every time I'm in a bar now that doesn't have taps on the wall, I'm going to think, oh, shoot, I could be drinking right now if Josh just figured this out for me. And I should go somewhere else that Josh has blessed with his genius. And that's the type of thing, whether BioRomper, the exact same thing. It is so original and interesting. I guarantee I'll be on a plane and think, oh, I wish I had the romper right now. Because, I'll be with my mask and my gloves or whatever other germaphobe thing I'm using. But really, as I say, don't just think what's going to make me money, but also think what's going to make me memorable. There's so much content out there. There's so many billboards. There's so many ads. There's so much that flash in front of us constantly. What about your idea, your show, your product is so memorable that someone out there, and you need a bunch of people who are going to pay, is going to remember it.
Okay, and so if you want to connect with Dave Noll, you can find him on LinkedIn. His name is really easy, Dave, as in D-A-V-E, Dave, and Noll, N-O-L-L. And you'll see by his LinkedIn profile what an amazing person he is. And then if you want to find Kenya Gipson and talk about maybe some digital marketing through iHeart, which...
Right, absolutely. And we've been using the digital marketing team at iHeart for a long time, and they will just blow your mind. They've got it all down and they do a fantastic job. So
that's Kenya Gipson with a P at iHeartMedia.com. And she can help you with any radio needs or digital marketing needs through iHeart. And if you want to get your beer and wine without waiting for a waiter, it's pourmybeer.com with Josh Goodman.
And who doesn't, right?
I am going to look for a restaurant that has this the next time we go into New York.
Does anybody actually enjoy waiting for their drink? Standing up in a crowd and like, ah.
And if you want to combine the fashion with future and cleanliness, bioromper.com, Arielle Crawford and Evan Boyd. What a cool outfit product. And Arielle's a fashion designer, so it looks good and feels good. And finally, we had Louis Torres.
Yeah, I was just going to say, check out their website. It's really awesome.
Yeah. Louis Torres with unleashedconsulting.com. This is very cool. It's marketing for people who are dog trainers. And it's hard to find a dog trainer. So if you're a dog trainer suddenly showing up all over social media because you've been using Louis' program, then you're going to be way ahead of the competition.
And so that about does it for us this evening on Passage to Profit. We want to thank our listeners and keep those cards and letters and emails and follows and likes coming in. And also, I want, on behalf of the iHeart organization and Passage to Profit, we'd like to thank Noah Fleischman, our fantastic producer, Alicia Morrissey, who is our program coordinator, and Angela Wolf, our video editor. So don't forget to like us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and also tune in to our YouTube channel. This is Richard and Elizabeth Gearhart for Passage to Profit, iHeartRadio, WOR 710, the voice of New York.